Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Easy English podcast.
I'm Emma.
And I'm James. It's great to have you with us today. Whether you're listening on your way to work, enjoying your morning coffee, or practicing your English at home, we're really happy you're here.
Absolutely. Today, we're talking about something that can completely change the way you learn English without adding hours to your day.
That's right. Our topic today is morning routine to improve your English. We'll share simple habits, practical tips, and easy techniques that can help you build confidence in English little by little every single day.
So, if you're around the B1 level and you're looking for a realistic routine that actually works, you're in the right place.
Grab your coffee, get comfortable, and let's get started.
You know, James, I have a question that I think so many English learners ask themselves. Does having a morning routine actually help you improve your English, or is it just another popular idea people talk about online?
That's a great question. And honestly, I think it's one of the biggest misunderstandings in language learning. People often believe they need more time, but in reality, what they usually need is more consistency. A simple morning routine can completely change the way someone learns English.
Really? Even if it's only a short routine?
Absolutely. Even 15 or 20 minutes every morning can be more effective than studying for 3 hours once a week. Your brain loves habits. When you do something at the same time every day, it becomes easier to continue.
That's interesting because I know people who wait until the evening to study, but then they're tired after work or school, and they end up skipping it.
Exactly. That's one of the biggest reasons morning routines work so well. In the morning, your mind is usually fresher. You haven't spent the whole day solving problems or thinking about responsibilities. Your attention is stronger, and your motivation is often higher.
So, it's not just about waking up early?
Not at all. That's another myth. A good morning routine doesn't mean waking up at 5 o'clock. If you naturally wake up at 8, that's perfectly fine. The important part is what you do after you wake up.
I actually like that because sometimes social media makes it seem like successful people all wake up before sunrise.
Right? And while that works for some people, it doesn't work for everyone. The goal isn't to copy someone else's schedule. The goal is to build a routine that fits your own life.
Okay, let's imagine someone listening to this podcast. Maybe they're an intermediate English learner, around B1 level. They want to become more confident when speaking English. What should be the very first thing they do in the morning?
Well, I would actually start with something surprisingly simple. Don't begin by studying grammar.
Really? I thought grammar would be the first step.
Most people do, but grammar requires concentration, and honestly, it can feel like work. Instead, begin with English that feels enjoyable. For example, listen to 5 minutes of easy English while you're making coffee or eating breakfast.
So the idea is to hear English before you even start actively studying?
Exactly. You're warming up your brain. Think about athletes. They don't immediately start the hardest exercise. They stretch first. Language learning works the same way. Your brain needs a gentle warm-up.
I like that comparison. It feels much less stressful.
And reducing stress is incredibly important. Many learners believe every study session has to be perfect. They think, I need to learn 20 new words today, or I have to finish an entire lesson. That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, and then if they don't finish everything, they feel guilty.
Exactly. That feeling of guilt often causes people to stop learning altogether. Instead, focus on one small success every morning.
What could that be?
Maybe learning 3 useful expressions. Maybe listening to one short conversation. Maybe reading 1 page from a simple English book. Small victories create momentum.
Momentum is such a good word because once you start, it's easier to keep going.
That's right. The hardest part is almost always beginning. Once you're already listening or reading, your brain naturally wants to continue.
I remember when I started exercising. The hardest part wasn't the workout. It was putting on my shoes.
That's a perfect example. Habits are often about removing resistance. If your English book is already on your desk, you're more likely to open it. If your headphones are next to your bed, you're more likely to listen to a podcast.
So, we're making English easy to start.
Exactly. Don't rely on motivation every day. Motivation changes. Some mornings you'll feel excited. Other mornings you won't. Good routines work even when motivation disappears.
That's actually reassuring because I think many learners blame themselves when they don't feel motivated.
And they shouldn't. Even professional athletes, musicians, and writers don't feel motivated every day. They simply trust their routines.
So instead of asking, "Do I feel like studying English today?" maybe we should ask, "What's the next small step?"
Precisely. Keep the decision simple. Turn on an English podcast. Read one paragraph. Learn one useful phrase. That's enough to get started.
I also wonder if people should avoid checking their phones first thing in the morning.
Honestly, yes. Social media can easily steal 30 or 40 minutes before you even realize it. Instead of filling your mind with random information, fill it with English. Even 10 focused minutes are more valuable than scrolling through dozens of short videos.
That's such a practical idea because almost everyone reaches for their phone as soon as they wake up.
Exactly. Imagine replacing just 10 minutes of scrolling with 10 minutes of listening to clear, understandable English every single morning. Over a year, that's more than 60 hours of extra English exposure.
Wow.
When you hear the numbers like that, it doesn't sound small anymore.
That's the secret. Great results usually come from small actions repeated consistently, not from huge efforts done only once in a while.
And I think that's the perfect message to start today's discussion because improving your English doesn't have to feel impossible. It can simply begin with a better morning routine. So, James, we've talked about starting the morning with easy English instead of putting pressure on ourselves. But here's something I'm curious about. What should someone actually do during those first 20 or 30 minutes?
That's where having a simple structure really helps. You don't want to wake up thinking, what should I study today? That decision alone can waste 10 minutes.
Oh, that's true. Sometimes I spend more time choosing what to learn than actually learning.
Exactly. So let's build a routine together. Imagine someone wakes up at 7 in the morning. They don't have hours to study because they have work or school. They only have about 30 minutes.
Sounds realistic.
First, spend 5 minutes listening to easy English. Don't worry about understanding every word. Just listen.
Even if you miss some parts?
Absolutely. In fact, that's normal. Many learners think listening means understanding 100% of what they hear. That's impossible, even for native speakers sometimes.
Really?
Of course. Think about listening to someone with a very strong accent or someone speaking in a noisy restaurant. Native speakers miss words too. They simply focus on the general meaning.
That's actually comforting. I think learners panic whenever they hear one unfamiliar word.
They do. But here's a better strategy. Instead of stopping every few seconds, keep listening until the end. Your brain is surprisingly good at filling in missing information.
Kind of like solving a puzzle.
Exactly. You're collecting clues from the conversation.
Okay, so 5 minutes of listening. What's next?
Next comes vocabulary, but not the way most people expect.
I knew grammar wasn't first, but now you're going to surprise me again, aren't you?
Maybe just a little. Instead of memorizing 20 random words, choose only 3 useful expressions.
Only 3?
Yes. Imagine learning these phrases. I'm looking forward to it. That makes sense. It depends.
Those actually sound like things people use every day.
Exactly. That's the point. High-frequency expressions are much more valuable than rare vocabulary.
I remember learning words like volcano and astronaut years ago.
They're interesting words.
But honestly, I almost never use them.
That's the problem. Many textbooks introduce vocabulary by category instead of usefulness. You might spend a week learning the names of different insects, but still not know how to politely disagree with someone.
That's funny, because it's true.
Everyday English is built around common phrases. Native speakers repeat the same expressions constantly.
So instead of learning isolated words, we should learn complete chunks of language?
Exactly. Your brain remembers meaningful phrases much more easily than single words.
Can you give another example?
Sure. Instead of memorizing the word opinion, learn the sentence, in my opinion.
Instead of recommend, learn I highly recommend.
Perfect. That's exactly how conversations work.
Okay, after listening and vocabulary, what comes next?
Speaking.
I knew you were going to say that.
And here's the interesting part. You don't need another person.
Wait, really?
Really. One of the biggest myths is that speaking practice only counts if you're talking with someone else.
So, what should people do?
Talk to yourself.
I think some listeners are smiling right now.
Probably. But honestly, it's one of the most effective exercises you can do.
What would someone even say?
Start with your morning. Say things like, I woke up at 7 today. I'm making coffee now. The weather looks nice. I have 3 meetings today. After work, I'm going to study English.
That's actually simple.
Exactly. You're describing your real life, so you don't need imagination.
And if you forget a word?
Don't stop. Find another way to explain it.
Like if I forget the word umbrella, I could say, the thing you use when it rains.
Perfect. That's a very important communication skill.
Because real conversations don't stop every time we forget one word.
Exactly. Fluent speakers don't know every word. They're simply comfortable finding different ways to express themselves.
I think that's something learners often forget. Fluency isn't perfection.
Not all. Fluency is the ability to keep communicating.
So listening useful phrases and speaking. That already sounds like a complete routine.
We're not finished yet.
There's more?
Just one final step.
I'm listening.
Reflection.
Reflection?
Yes. Spend just 2 or 3 minutes asking yourself simple questions.
Like what?
What did I learn today? Which phrase do I remember best? Which pronunciation was difficult? Will I practice tomorrow?
So instead of just finishing the session and forgetting about it, you're reviewing it.
Exactly. Reflection helps transfer information into long-term memory.
It's interesting because that's something people do in sports too. Coaches review the game after it's over.
Right? Improvement doesn't only happen during practice. It also happens when you think about your practice.
I really like how manageable this routine feels. We're not talking about spending 3 hours with grammar books.
Not all. We're talking about building a habit that you can actually continue for months.
And I think that's the key word again, continue.
Exactly. A routine only works if you can still follow it next week, next month, and hopefully next year.
Because consistency always beats intensity in the long run. You know, James, there's one problem I hear all the time. People say, I understand English when I'm reading, but the moment someone starts speaking, I get completely lost.
That's probably the most common challenge for intermediate learners. And honestly, it's completely normal.
Why does that happen? If someone knows the vocabulary, shouldn't they understand the conversation?
You would think so, but spoken English is very different from written English. When we read, every word is separated. We can stop, look back, and think. But in real conversations, people speak quickly, connect words together, and sometimes even shorten them.
So, it's not always that learners don't know the words.
Exactly. Sometimes they know every single word individually, but they don't recognize them when they're spoken naturally.
Can you give us an example?
Sure. Imagine someone says, "What are you going to do?"
That's a simple sentence.
It is. But in everyday conversation, many native speakers say something that sounds more like, "What you gonna do?"
Wow.
If you're learning from textbooks, those almost sound like completely different sentences.
That's exactly the problem. Learners expect perfect textbook pronunciation, but real conversations are much more relaxed.
So, should learners try to copy that style immediately?
Not necessarily. I think understanding natural speech is more important than sounding exactly like a native speaker.
That's interesting because many people focus so much on having an American or British accent.
Right, but communication isn't about sounding identical to someone else. It's about being understood and understanding others.
So, during a morning routine, how can someone improve their listening?
One technique I really like is called active listening.
How is that different from just listening to a podcast?
Well, passive listening is when English is simply playing in the background while you're doing something else. That's useful sometimes, but active listening means you're giving your full attention.
So, maybe putting the phone away for a few minutes?
Exactly. Sit down with your coffee or tea, listen carefully, and ask yourself simple questions. What's the topic? Who is speaking? What's the main idea? Even if you don't understand every detail, you're training your brain to follow conversations.
I like that because it feels more interactive.
It is. And there's another technique that's incredibly effective.
Let me guess. Shadowing?
Exactly.
I hear people talking about shadowing all the time, but I'm not sure everyone understands what it actually means.
Shadowing is very simple. You listen to a sentence, and you repeat it immediately, trying to match the speaker's rhythm, pronunciation, and speed.
Even if you don't sound perfect?
Especially if you don't sound perfect. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is getting your mouth used to producing English naturally.
That reminds me of learning music. You don't just read the notes. You actually play the instrument.
That's a perfect comparison. Language is a skill. Reading about speaking isn't the same as speaking.
How long should someone practice shadowing?
Honestly, 5 minutes is enough to start. Choose a short podcast or dialogue. Listen to one sentence. Pause it. Repeat it. Then continue.
And don't rush.
Exactly. Speed comes naturally over time.
There's another thing I struggle with sometimes. I hear a new expression, I understand it, and then the next day it's gone.
That's because understanding isn't the same as remembering.
So how do we fix that?
By reviewing information before your brain forgets it.
Not weeks later.
Exactly. Ideally, later that same day.
So if I learn 3 expressions in the morning,
Review them during lunch.
then maybe again before bed?
Perfect. Those quick reviews are much more effective than trying to memorize 50 expressions all at once.
That's interesting because people often think more studying means better results.
But our brains don't work that way. Small, repeated exposure usually wins.
I've also noticed that learners often write long vocabulary lists but never actually use the words.
That's another common mistake. Words become useful only when you use them in real sentences.
So instead of writing confident 20 times,
Say, I'm becoming more confident when I speak English.
instead of writing improve,
Say, I want to improve my listening skills.
that feels much more natural.
Because language always lives inside context. Our brains remember stories, situations, and conversations much better than isolated words.
So maybe people should keep a notebook, but instead of writing single words, they write useful sentences.
Exactly. Think of it as collecting tools instead of collecting facts.
I like that idea. Every sentence becomes something you can actually use in a real conversation.
That's the goal. Learning English isn't about passing a vocabulary test. It's about expressing your thoughts with confidence.
And confidence doesn't appear overnight.
No, it grows one conversation at a time, one sentence at a time, and honestly, one morning at a time.
Which is really the theme of today's discussion. Small daily habits may not seem impressive today, but after a few months, they can completely change the way you communicate in English. You know, James, we've talked a lot about building good habits, but I think we should also talk about the habits that actually slow people down.
That's a great idea because sometimes improving isn't about doing more. It's about stopping the things that aren't helping.
Exactly. So, what's one of the biggest mistakes English learners make during their morning study routine?
I'd probably say try and do too much.
Really?
Yes. People wake up feeling motivated and they create this huge study plan. They say, today I'll study grammar for an hour, memorize 50 new words, watch 2 videos, read a chapter of a book, and practice speaking.
That sounds ambitious.
It does. But the problem is that it's difficult to maintain. Maybe they manage it on Monday, but by Wednesday they're exhausted.
So they end up giving up completely.
Exactly. A smaller routine that you follow every day is much more powerful than an enormous routine that only lasts a few days.
That's true in almost every area of life, isn't it?
Absolutely. Whether it's exercising, eating healthier, learning an instrument, or studying a language, consistency almost always beats intensity.
Here's another mistake I've noticed. People compare themselves to others all the time.
Oh, that's a big one.
They'll watch someone speaking fluent English online and immediately think, I'll never sound like that.
Right? But what they don't see is the years of practice behind that level.
We usually only see the final result.
Exactly. Imagine watching a professional football player and expecting to play at the same level after a few weeks of training. It wouldn't be realistic.
Yet people expect that with languages.
They do. And that expectation creates frustration.
So instead of comparing yourself to someone else,
Compare yourself to who you were last month.
that's such a healthier way of looking at progress.
Definitely. Maybe last month you were afraid to introduce yourself in English. Today you can have a 5-minute conversation. That's real progress.
Even if you're still making mistakes.
Especially if you're still making mistakes. Mistakes are evidence that you're using the language.
That's a nice way to think about it.
Here's something I tell learners all the time. Don't fear mistakes. Fear silence.
I love that.
Because every mistake teaches you something. But if you never speak, you don't give yourself the chance to improve.
Speaking of mistakes, I think pronunciation scares a lot of people.
It really does.
People worry that others will laugh at their accent.
Honestly, most people won't. In fact, many native English speakers are simply happy that someone is making the effort to communicate in their language.
That's encouraging.
And remember, English is an international language. Millions of conversations happen every day between people who aren't native speakers.
So having an accent isn't the problem.
Exactly. Everyone has an accent. The goal is clear communication, not perfection.
Another thing I hear is, I'm too old to learn English.
That's one of the biggest myths out there.
So age isn't the deciding factor?
No. Children often learn faster because they're surrounded by the language and they're not afraid of making mistakes. Adults actually have some advantages.
Like what?
Adults usually have better discipline. They understand learning strategies. They can organize their study time more effectively.
That's true. Adults know why they're learning.
Exactly. Motivation is often stronger because the language has a purpose. Maybe it's for work, travel, university, or simply connecting with people.
So if someone is 30, 40, 50, or even older,
They can absolutely improve their English.
that's great to hear.
The important thing is staying patient.
Patience seems to come up again and again today.
Because language learning isn't a race. Some days you'll feel like you're improving quickly. Other days it may seem like nothing is happening.
I've experienced that.
We all have. But here's what's interesting. Progress often feels invisible until one day you suddenly realize you're understanding a movie better, or you answer someone in English without translating in your head.
Those little moments must feel amazing.
They really do. And they're usually the result of weeks or months of consistent practice.
Not one perfect study session.
Exactly.
Before we finish this part, I want to ask one final question. If someone listening today only remembers one idea from everything we've discussed so far, what should it be?
I'd say this. Don't wait until you have the perfect plan, the perfect textbook, or the perfect amount of free time. Start tomorrow morning with just one small English habit. It might seem insignificant at first, but small actions repeated every day have the power to create extraordinary results over time.
I think that's a wonderful reminder. Learning English isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up, staying curious, and giving yourself another opportunity to improve every single morning.
Exactly. One morning becomes 1 week. 1 week becomes 1 month. And before you know it, you've built a habit that can completely transform your confidence in English.
And honestly, that's something worth waking up for every day. You know, James, after everything we've talked about today, I keep thinking about one simple question. What does success actually look like for someone learning English?
That's a wonderful question because success is different for everyone. For one person, it might mean passing an English exam. For someone else, it could be traveling without feeling nervous. And for another learner, it might simply be having a conversation with confidence.
I like that because sometimes people only celebrate the really big achievements.
Exactly. But language learning is full of small victories that deserve attention.
Like understanding a joke in English for the first time.
That's a great example.
Or watching a movie and realizing you didn't need subtitles for one entire scene.
Absolutely. Or answering a question in English without translating every word in your head first.
Those moments probably feel tiny at the time.
They do, but they're actually signs that your brain is becoming more comfortable with the language.
So maybe we should celebrate those moments instead of immediately thinking about the next goal.
I completely agree. Celebrating progress keeps your motivation alive.
There's something else I've been wondering. What if someone misses a morning? Maybe they oversleep, or they're just really busy.
That's completely normal. Missing one day isn't the problem.
Really?
Not at all. The real danger is believing that one missed day means you failed.
The classic. I'll start again next Monday.
Exactly. And then next Monday becomes next month.
So, if you miss one morning,
Simply continue the following day. Don't waste energy feeling guilty.
that sounds much healthier.
Habits aren't built by being perfect. They're built by returning after interruptions.
I think a lot of people need to hear that.
Definitely. Life happens. Sometimes you're traveling. Sometimes you're sick. Sometimes work becomes busy. That's completely normal.
The important thing is not giving up.
Exactly.
Before we finish today's conversation, I'd love to imagine something.
Go ahead.
Let's imagine one of our listeners starts tomorrow morning. They follow a simple English routine for 6 months. What changes might they notice?
Well, first, listening becomes easier. They won't understand everything, but they'll stop panicking every time they hear an unfamiliar word.
That alone would reduce so much stress.
Absolutely. Second, speaking becomes more natural because they're using English every day instead of only thinking about it.
So they're building confidence little by little.
Exactly. Third, their vocabulary grows naturally. Instead of memorizing hundreds of random words, they'll remember useful expressions they've actually used.
That makes sense.
Reading also becomes faster because common words and phrases start feeling familiar. And perhaps most importantly, English becomes part of their daily life instead of feeling like another school subject.
I love that idea. Instead of saying, I have to study English, they start thinking, English is just something I do every morning.
That's the biggest transformation.
Because habits eventually become part of your identity.
Exactly. You stop seeing yourself as someone trying to learn English and start seeing yourself as someone who actually uses English.
That's a powerful difference.
It really is.
Before we wrap up, I'd like to do a quick recap of today's discussion.
Great idea.
We started by talking about why consistency is more important than studying for long hours once in a while.
Right?
Then we explored a simple morning routine, beginning with easy listening, learning a few useful expressions, practicing speaking, and taking a few minutes to reflect on what you learned.
Exactly.
We also talked about active listening, shadowing, reviewing vocabulary throughout the day, and focusing on complete phrases instead of isolated words.
Those habits make a huge difference over time.
Then we discussed some common mistakes, like trying to do too much, comparing yourself with other learners, and being afraid of making mistakes.
And hopefully everyone listening now understands that mistakes aren't something to avoid. They're simply part of the learning process.
Finally, we talked about patience.
Probably the most important lesson of all.
Because learning English isn't something that happens overnight.
No, it's something that grows through small, consistent actions repeated day after day.
If there's one message we'd like everyone to remember after today's episode, it's this: you don't need a perfect schedule, expensive courses, or endless free time to improve your English.
You simply need a realistic routine that fits your life and a commitment to keep showing up, even on days when your motivation isn't very high.
Every morning gives you another opportunity to learn one new phrase, understand one more sentence, and become just a little more confident than you were yesterday.
And when you look back a few months from now, you'll probably be surprised by how far you've come.
We really hope today's conversation has given you practical ideas that you can start using tomorrow morning.
Remember, progress doesn't come from doing something extraordinary once. It comes from doing ordinary things consistently.
Thanks for spending this time with us. We hope you enjoyed practicing your English while learning how to build a morning routine that actually works.
Keep practicing, stay curious, and most importantly, enjoy the journey. Every conversation, every new word, and every small step brings you closer to becoming a more confident English speaker.
We'll see you in the next episode. Until then, have a wonderful day and happy learning.